My name is Jeff, and I am a composer vita, and I'm abstinent today because I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the gray sheet, write it down, and commit it to my sponsor, and I don't eat in between meals no matter what. And abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception. And I'm so and I don't know. I shared this the other day. I don't want to feel like it's not a big thing. It's a big thing to stay abstinent one day, but it's a big thing to stay abstinent every day up for 6 years. And I think I made it very insignificant when I came around the first time. And I always have to talk about when I first got here, because when I first got here, I think, I don't know, maybe not right off the back. I don't think I thought it like, well, I just want to lose weight and I want to look good in clothes. I knew that I had a food addiction. I came from another 12-step fellowship where the main thing was just staying sober, staying clean. And I got here and I got clean in 1986, and I've been clean for 38 years. And the following year, 1 year after I got clean, I end up in a gray sheet meeting, because in those fellowships, especially in AA and NA, they don't nobody really thinks about anything like that. When you first walk in, you come in and you see this table full of a whole bunch of stuff that we really are not supposed to have, and we totally indulge in it. And I think for me, I think I got an enormous amount of clarity when I came back. When I came the first time, I really didn't get the true benefits of what this program had to offer me until I relapsed. It took me over 20 years to make it back. I got abstinent, and my abstinent wasn't pure. It wasn't back to back. I actually I did this program with exception, and what I've learned is that there are no exceptions. If you're either gray sheet abstinent or you're not, you can. There's all these other things you could do, but for me, and I would never tell anybody else, this is the only thing that's going to work for anybody. It is the only thing that works for me. Somebody shared with me one day, yeah, but it's not a lot of people in gray sheet, man. I want to do something with other. I don't really care about what anybody else is doing. If it was only me and somebody, me and Tara, that's it, me, Tara, and Joe. If it was only us there doing this, I don't care. I'm going to keep doing it because it's the only thing that works for me. And that's why I stay. And I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. All I know what's going to happen for today. For today, I'm abstinent. No matter what goes on in my life, I stay abstinent. Like I said, I came here the first time in 1987, and I stayed abstinent. I'm gonna call it wishy-washy. I stayed like that for like about 6 or 7 years, and a whole bunch of no matter what's came up, and because I wasn't following this program to the letter, because I wasn't connected with anybody. I didn't even have a lot of people's phone numbers. The only person I actually talked to more regular was my sponsor. I mean, I will say 99% of the time I did what I was supposed to do, but there was that 1% that I didn't do what I was supposed to do. It talks about that we have to do this together. There's times that I didn't know the answer, and I wouldn't pick up the phone and call my sponsor and ask them questions. I made decisions on my own, and here we don't make decisions on our own. And even if I like this simple thing, like, okay, I committed my food to my sponsor the night before, at 9 o'clock, I commit my food and I write my food down. I don't like come out of my head. I write it down and then I call my sponsor. And even if I want to make a small change, I could really do it, because I know what to do, but I've done that before. And when I came back, I said, I'm not doing anything that I did before. I did everything totally opposite. So I would pick up the phone and I would call my sponsor. If I didn't know, I would call him. If I was going to make a food change, I'd call my sponsor. And sometimes I actually have to refer back to the gray sheet. It's only it's only two sides to it, but sometimes you forget. You got to go back and check and make sure. And I remember I was at this store, this store that sold a lot of fruits there, and there was this one thing there that it looked like something that we have, but I wasn't sure if I could have it because the name didn't associate with the fruit on the actual gray sheet. So I called my sponsor, and Jeff, I never heard of that thing, but listen, let me call my sponsor, and I do that even with the people that I sponsor because I don't have the answers to everything because I have to reach out at times to talk to other people. So when I was out there, I told a few little stories the last time I spoke, that I was sharing about the other day about, and I remembered this, and it had snowed really bad in the city because I'm from New York, and it had snowed really bad. And the next day, it got very cold, so everything got frozen. And at that time, I would say I was close to 400 pounds. I was close to 400 pounds. I left here 187 pounds. I came back here 390 pounds. 398. I came back 398. I was knocking on the door of 400 pounds. But it was the pain and and I had no coordination. Everything was thrown off. My coordination, everything was thrown off because of the weight. I couldn't manage my own body because I was so overweight. And I remember I was getting off the express bus. I went across the street and I slipped and I fell and I was on the ice. I couldn't get back up. I had to crawl to try to pull myself up to get up, and it was hard. There was another time that I was in the store and my shoelaces were untied and I couldn't bend over to tie my shoes. And this lady came up to me. I was so embarrassed, man. This lady came up to me and said, "Listen, sir, your shoes are untied." And I don't know, maybe she looked at me, she said, "He's not going to be able to do it." She said, "Would you like me to tie it?" And I had to be humble. I had to say, "Yeah, I would appreciate it." She tied my shoe. Another time I fell, and this little lady, she was short, she was half of me, and she tried to help me get up. It took two people to help me to get up because I couldn't pull myself up. And these are some of the things that I remember. I remember all of these things all the time. And I was so I mean, I was so in I was so overwhelmed eating that, that's all I did. Get up to go to work, come home, eat, uh pass out because basically that's what would happen. Then I would have to come to the next day because and I was so tired all the time, but before I went back out there, I had this clarity that I had, but I couldn't appreciate it. I didn't appreciate it until I came back. And when I came back, um, I was diabetic. Before I left, I wasn't diabetic. Of course, I came back diabetic. I was on all this medication. My blood pressure was out of whack. Everything was out of whack. My whole body was like it was a total disaster. And I remember when I left, they didn't have cell phones. They didn't have anything. They didn't have any of that stuff yet. And I went on the internet because I wasn't sure if you guys still existed. I said, I wonder if that those people are still there. So, and I went, and the website was up. They had the website was kind of like new, but they had all the numbers. They had all the numbers. And as I went down the line, I saw my sponsor's number, and I sent him an email, which I still have. And I get real emotional about it because we all know what it's like to suffer. It's really the only people that could really understand what we go through is other GreySheeters will understand. And I remember, and I sent him an email, and I said to him, I says, "I don't know if you remember me, but you sponsored me. If you were willing to sponsor me again." He said, "Of course I remember who you are." And he says, "Meet me at Soldiers and Sailors." And I met him at Soldiers and Sailors, and I've been abstinent ever since. And it's one of these things, you know how they say, like, it's like riding a bike, you never forget how to do it. So the one thing that I always remembered was the mantra. The mantra I remembered, but the thing about the mantra when I came the first time is it was mostly all women. There were hardly any men when I first came around. And that's why it was easy for me to come back because for some reason I thought it was going to be the same deal, but there's more men than it was when I came. But I used to be like sitting back there, like saying, listen to these women, like, oh, I love my food. Oh, I weigh a measure with exception. And I was like, ah, man, this stuff is so freaking corny because I didn't get it. I didn't get it, you know? And I needed that, you know, I needed to go back out. I needed it. I didn't want to go back out, but I needed it. It was what worked for me. And I'm in it today. You know, I can't even believe that I'm talking like this about this program because I didn't know that I was, and I feel part of the community now. I feel part of. I didn't feel part of it the first time, and I know it's a gift. It's a gift to have what we have, you know, and it's a total appreciation. You know, when I first came back, it was no virtual meetings. You know, it was all face to face. So I had to I went to any meeting that I could get to because I didn't want to go back out and I just didn't want to go back out. So I would go to meetings on the weekend. I would go to meetings on the West Side on Thursday. They had a meeting on the West Side on Thursday. Wherever I can go, I even went out to Long Island. People would take me out there. I even went out there. I didn't care. Wherever there was a meeting, I went because I didn't want to go back into the food. I found out more about myself in doing this program. And some people who are in multiple 12-step fellowships, they can understand where I'm coming from. Like I've done the steps through you know in the other 12-step fellowships, but I really benefiting from the steps more now than I did when I did the steps in those programs because I'm getting in touch with something a lot deeper than I would have never found out about the things about myself if I because but food was my first drug. It was my first drug. And my mother was one of these people that used to say she would I said this the other day, she's from Louisiana. So she came up here when she was like a teenager to New York. So she's southern northern. She's like a middle of the road person, you know? And she would come with the southern stuff. She would say, boy, your eyes are bigger than your stomach. And yeah, oh my God. My mother used to put a plate of food on the table for me, and my eyes would tell me it's not enough. And mind you, I didn't even eat anything. I didn't even touch the food yet. But immediately, this is what and I didn't have, you know how people say, well, I was a sweets person and I was an everything person. I was an everything person. It was no like, you know, like in NA, Narcotics Anonymous, they call those people garbage heads. That means they'll use any kind of drug. That's the way I am with food. It doesn't matter what it is, just as long as I could feel good, you know. And lately, over the past couple of years, you know, I've been going through some changes, emotional stuff. You know, like my daughter she's being a typical young adult, and she's doing things that I know that's going to cause her a whole bunch of problems down the road. But I don't have control over that.
Minutes, Jeff.
Thank you, Alana. I don't have control over any of it and I can't let that get in between my I can't let that be part of my abstinence. You know, I have to keep that separately. And they say it here. You know, don't let your living situations and your abstinence mix. You have to keep them separately. You know, and I do that. Like there's sometimes I feel really now I feel real off. You know, but I got to eat my food. And I've heard people in the meeting, I come to the meeting, I listen, I hear people going through some crazy stuff, or just regular life on life term situations, death, and all kinds of things. And they don't eat. They don't eat over them, you know, and it just it's hope for me every time. You know, this analogy that I have, like we used to, when I was a kid, they used to have these caves and the only way you can go into and they had to close off all those caves that they used to have back in the day, but they used to have these caves, and you had to have a candle to come inside those caves, or else you couldn't see anything. So for me today, the way I look at my abstinence today, I was in the darkness, and when I came to Gray Sheet, it became bright. My life, everything became light, you know. And I have this inner brightness that I didn't have before coming back. So I am really grateful that I am abstinent today. I don't know what I said, and I don't know if I reached anybody who is just starting out, but the only thing I could tell you is this program works. So L, I want to thank you so much for asking me to speak, and your service is like incredible. And thank you for letting me share.